God is dead, Nietzsche proclaimed in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, but Nietzsche seemed more concerned that the spirit of man was dying with him. There had been a sickness infiltrating humanity for the past millennia, a sickness of the soul. He saw this disease manifesting as the last man. Much of Nietzsche's philosophy was his response to the rise of nihilism, decadence, and the blind morality of the herd. He thought modern values such as equality, comfort, and safety were making the soul sick with weak feeling and repressed drives. The abandonment of heroic myths and culture was creating degeneration, and as technology and science and democracy progressed, he feared for humanity. Today we are looking at Nietzsche's prophetic vision of the last man and his message to the free spirits of the future. In Nietzsche's book, Thus Spoke Zarathustra, Zarathustra, the heroic sage, came down from the mountains after becoming overfull and weary of his own wisdom. He arrived in a town and began to preach of the Ubermensche, or the overman, the new ideal that could give life meaning in the absence of religion and God. It was an ideal to aspire to, and through aspiring, Nietzsche taught, man could surpass himself and fulfill the creative purpose of earth. Lo, I teach you of the overman. Man is something that is to be surpassed. What have ye done to surpass man? All beings hitherto have created something beyond themselves, and ye want to be the ebb of that great tide, and would rather go back to the beast than surpass man. Zarathustra was mocked and scorned by the people in the town. So instead of preaching his heroic ideal, he warned of the trap that all of society was heading for, the counter-ideal to the Ubermensch, which he called the last man. The man who no longer aspires and strives beyond himself, the man who lives for comfort and ease with barely an aim beyond the day. The last man is a domesticated animal who joins the herd and lives a life of conformity and mediocrity. Thus spoke Zarathustra to the people. It is time for man to fix his goal. It is time for man to plant the seed of his highest hope. His soil is still rich enough for it, but that soil will one day be poor and exhausted, and no lofty tree will any longer be able to grow there. Alas, there comes the time when man will no longer launch the arrow of his longing beyond man, and the string of his bow will have unlearned to whiz. I tell you, one must still have chaos in oneself to give birth to a dancing star. I tell you, you have still chaos in yourselves. Alas, there comes the time when man will no longer give birth to any star. Alas, there comes the time of the most despicable man, who can no longer despise himself. Lo, I show you the last man. The last man to Nietzsche was the greatest existential threat to humanity because this lower type no longer possessed the power to grow beyond itself. Too much domestication renders an entire species unfit to reproduce, evolve, or even survive. A wolf has the potential to produce greater and greater offspring, but a Shih Tzu can never reproduce a wolf. The Shih Tzu, like the last man, has become stuck in a devolved form. It no longer aspires beyond itself. It cannot do that. The spiritual force toward upward power and mobility and evolution no longer exists in its heart. It lives a meaningless and superficial life that will soon be crushed by nature. I think Nietzsche's vision here was prophetic. We live in a world of last men. Men who can barely formulate an aim beyond more sex and ease or wealth and status. They do just enough to get by. They are pacified with pleasures and addictions and safe from every danger and hardship of nature. Deep down, these last men hate themselves, but they smother it in food, porn, video games, drugs, fantasy worlds, and everything else but the reality of Earth. They don't rise to the ordeal of living. They hide under the covers. These last men and women cry out for a welfare state, for perfect equality and safety in all things, and they're perfectly willing to give up their freedom for it. I don't write this to condemn man or anyone watching. Vices and weaknesses and addictions and nihilism has infiltrated all of our lives in the postmodern West, and I have suffered through a life of decadence just as much as anyone else. I only write this to call out and call up. But by my love and hope I entreat you, do not reject the hero in your soul. Keep holy your highest hope. Thus spoke Zarathustra. Aspiration to Zarathustra and Nietzsche was keystone in the philosophy, in the development of higher types of individuals. Only by cultivating a strong enough why and aspiring towards an ideal can true power and freedom be cultivated. This is why aspiration is what we all need. Being stuck and overwhelmed is not a problem for the spirit. Not doing anything about it is. You see, the spirit delights in overcoming, in getting stuck and rising out of it. Life delights in hardship and overcoming itself. There is only one thing that truly hurts the spirit of man, and that is cowering and resigning to limitations as a helpless beast. Nietzsche called these last men spiritually sick, and I personally think that much of the modern mental health pandemic comes from a deep spiritual sickness. We lack a sense of belonging, gusto, heroism, purpose, and courage as a collective. Hence, we try to build up walls of comfort and security and our phones and screens. This approach is anti-life. Life is inherently difficult, and growing through challenge is what makes it beautiful and worthy. But if you lack the heroic impulse, you will try to hide and deny life. In this weakness, only corruption brews. Some of Nietzsche's message in Thus Spoke Zarathustra was to avoid the temptation and trap of an easy life. Nietzsche sought to elevate what makes man most healthy and spiritually alive. And I think these are questions we ought to ponder in this age of unprecedented confusion and ease. There are many things important to life as an individual and as a collective. But what is most important? What makes life sing with vibrance and vitality? What breeds a higher type of man who lives the fullest life possible? What is the antidote to the way of the last man? These are some of the questions we will be exploring in the next videos based on Nietzsche and my new book, The Psychology of Slaying Dragons. Nietzsche was hopeful that the free spirits of the future would heed his warning and learn to aspire once more. He saw the soil was not ripe for Zarathustra in the 19th century, but perhaps it would be someday. I know many men who hear this message feel the pull upward. The world is in need of revolutionaries, and it is against this great darkness and corruption of our times that great purpose can be found. Join me. In the days to come, we will explore fear versus safety, how suffering makes you beautiful, and how living dangerously is the key to a full life. So make sure to hit that bell notification to get my next uploads on Nietzsche and this full guide to greatness. After 2 years of writing about heroism, philosophy, and the warrior's way, I'm so excited to announce the launch of my new book in 1 week. It's heavily influenced by Nietzsche and many warrior philosophers of the past. You can get it on Amazon if it's out, or you can sign up for a free chapter, link in the description below. Thanks for supporting Wisdom Warriors. I'm Christian. Have an aspirational kind of day. Peace.